This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it stunned the coin world with a price tag climbing toward $1.1 million. Yes, a simple quarter, the kind most people toss into a parking meter, has changed lives. And tonight, you're going to discover exactly why it all began in 2014, when the US Mint released the Great Smoky Mountains Quarter. At first glance, it was just another piece of pocket change, part of the America the Beautiful series. Millions were struck in Philadelphia, carrying the tiny P mint mark. Collectors admired the mountain design, the rustic cabin, the tall pine trees. But no one knew that hidden among these millions were a handful of mistakes. Errors so rare, they would transform an ordinary 25-cent coin into a life-changing fortune. And here's the part that stunned experts: the earliest discoveries weren't even made by dealers. They were made by regular people like you and me, who didn't even realize what they had until a sharp-eyed collector spotted something almost unbelievable. But what happened next shocked the entire coin world. You see, some of these 2014 P quarters carried microscopic flaws: double dies in the lettering, extra metal where it shouldn't be, slight misalignments in the strike. To the untrained eye, they looked like normal coins. But to experts, they were a goldmine. Auction houses began buzzing. Dealers scrambled. Stories circulated of one man who pulled his change from a vending machine, only to discover later that it was worth more than $1 million. $1 million, from a single quarter. What could possibly make a coin so new, so modern, skyrocket in value like that? The answer lies not just in the errors, but in the thrill of scarcity. Most of the 2014 P Great Smoky Mountains quarters are perfectly ordinary. But when a rare mistake escapes the mint's iron grip on quality, that tiny flaw becomes a beacon for collectors. And because only a handful exist, demand explodes. Collectors were shocked when one example crossed the auction block, its details crisp, its error undeniable. The bidding war that erupted was nothing short of chaos. Dealers raised their paddles higher and higher, desperate to own what they knew might be the rarest modern quarter in existence. When the hammer fell, the room sat in stunned silence. A quarter that cost 25 cents, had just changed hands for nearly $1.1 million, but here's the twist you must hear: many people who own this coin don't even realize it. They pass it along in grocery store lines, feed it into parking meters, or let it rattle in their glove compartments. The $1 million miracle is hiding in plain sight, camouflaged among billions of ordinary coins. And unless you know what to look for, you could spend it away without ever realizing the fortune in your hand. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. When you hold a 2014 P Great Smoky Mountains quarter, look closely. Examine the words, Great Smoky Mountains. Under magnification, some coins show doubling, letters that appear thicker, like shadows of themselves. Others display what collectors call die chips, tiny extra blobs of metal that interrupt the crisp lines of the design. And in some cases, the strike itself is misaligned, throwing the whole image slightly off-center, but the true treasures are those coins in pristine, uncirculated condition. Coins that never saw a pocket, never scraped against others in a cash register. These are the coins that drive collectors wild, commanding staggering premiums. One coin in nearly flawless mint state. That's the type of piece that soared past the $1 million mark. But wait. There's another secret: not every 2014 P quarter is created equal. The Philadelphia Mint produced millions, yes, but the dies they used wore down at different rates. The earliest strikes, coins made when the dies were fresh, have razor-sharp detail. Later strikes show weakness, flattening, imperfections. And in rare cases, those imperfections turned into collectible errors. That means if you find one with crystal-clear mountains, perfect details on the cabin, and a strong shine, you may be looking at a coin worth more than just pocket change. Collectors are hunting relentlessly for these pieces. Dealers are rushing to grab them before the general public wakes up. And the few that surface send shockwaves through auctions. Because every time one appears, the price climbs higher. Most people don't believe a modern coin could be worth that much. They dismiss it. They ignore it. They spend it. And by the time they realize what they've lost, it's already too late. Imagine this. You're digging through an old jar of change. Quarters clink against each other, shining under the light. You pull one out, it's a 2014 Great Smoky Mountains quarter. You're about to toss it back when something catches your eye. A doubling in the lettering. A slight shift in the design. Could it be? Your heart races. Your hands shake. Because in that moment, you realize you might be holding a coin worth $1 million, and what happened next will astonish you. Collectors who've made these discoveries describe the moment as life-altering. One man said he stared at his coin under a magnifying glass for hours, hardly daring to believe. Another rushed to a dealer, who confirmed the error and nearly fainted when he realized what it meant. These weren't professional treasure hunters. These were ordinary Americans, finding extraordinary wealth in their pocket change, and the story continues to unfold. More discoveries are being made. More coins are surfacing from rolls, jars, and forgotten stashes. Each new find reignites the frenzy. And each time, the question grows louder: could the next $1 million coin already be sitting in someone's dresser drawer? This is why collectors never stop searching. This is why every coin matters. So here's how you identify this treasure. First, check the mint mark. It must carry the P for Philadelphia. Then, examine the lettering under magnification, look for doubling or distortions. Scan the design for extra blobs of metal, die cracks, or misalignments. And above all, study the condition. A coin that looks untouched, with blazing luster, has the highest chance of skyrocketing in value. Don't make the mistake of overlooking these details. Don't assume every quarter is ordinary. Because the moment you do, you could let a fortune slip through your fingers. The Great Smoky Mountains quarter isn't just a piece of change. It's a legend in the making. A reminder that life-changing discoveries can come from the unlikeliest places. And the next one could belong to you. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it sold for nearly $1 million, and it wasn't gold. It wasn't silver. It wasn't even rare looking at first glance. It was just a Washington quarter, a 1971 quarter with no mint mark, the kind of coin you've probably seen thousands of times. But what most people don't realize is that a small number of these coins are hiding a secret so shocking, so valuable, that collectors are calling them the $1 million miracles. One man's pocket change became the discovery of a lifetime. He thought he was spending a normal quarter, until he noticed something unusual about the coin's shine. He sent it off to be graded, and when the results came back, dealers were stunned. What looked like a simple 1971 quarter was, in fact, one of the rarest minting mistakes in American history, worth up to $1.2 million. Why would a coin minted in the billions suddenly be worth more than a house, more than a sports car, more than some people make in a lifetime? The answer lies in a hidden story, a story the U.S. Mint never meant to tell. In 1971, the Mint had just transitioned away from striking quarters in silver. They now used a copper-nickel-clad composition. But during this chaotic time, a few leftover silver planchets, the blank discs used to strike coins, accidentally slipped through the system. Imagine that, in a sea of ordinary copper-nickel quarters, a handful of real silver quarters were struck by mistake. These are not supposed to exist. And yet, they do, and that's not the only error. Some 1971 quarters show off-center strikes, double dies, and even weakly struck designs that can push values into the tens of thousands. But the silver planchet error? That's the jackpot. That's the coin that transforms a 25-cent piece into $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, one of these coins shattered all expectations. Bidders lined up, desperate to own a piece of history that wasn't supposed to exist. The room went silent when the hammer fell. This single quarter, plucked from circulation, had sold for well over $1 million. Collectors gasped. Dealers whispered. And suddenly, everyone who had ever spent a quarter from the 1970s began to wonder, could they have let a fortune slip through their hands? This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The secret is in the weight. A standard 1971 quarter made of copper and nickel weighs about 5.67 grams. But a silver planchet? It tips the scale at 6.25 grams. That tiny difference, less than a gram, is what separates pocket change from a $1 million miracle. Think about that. You could hold 2 quarters in your hand, and they'd look almost identical. One is worth 25 cents. The other could be worth over $1 million. That's why collectors are searching everywhere, in coin rolls, in old change jars, even in the dusty drawers of forgotten dressers. Because the treasure could be hiding anywhere, but the story doesn't end there. Some 1971 quarters have been discovered with dramatic double die obverse, where Washington's profile looks almost ghost-like, duplicated in the metal. Others show broad strikes, where the coin wasn't properly confined by the collar during minting, causing it to spread unnaturally wide. Each one of these errors transforms a common coin into a rare collectible worth thousands, and yet, it's the silver strikes that remain the holy grail. Dealers call them phantom quarters because they were never supposed to leave the mint. Imagine the worker in 1971 who unknowingly released them into circulation. Imagine the countless hands that passed that coin, buying candy, paying for gas, maybe even dropping it in a vending machine, completely unaware that they were holding $1 million treasure. Collectors were shocked when the first example was confirmed. Suddenly, every 1971 quarter had to be checked. People began hoarding them, weighing them, inspecting them under magnifying glasses. And the frenzy hasn't stopped, but here's the part most people don't know: not every rare 1971 quarter will look shiny or pristine. Some of the most valuable coins ever found were tarnished, worn, even scratched. Because what matters most is the composition, the strike, the hidden error. That means the very coin sitting in your pocket right now, the one you might dismiss as ordinary, could actually be worth over $1 million, and here's the kicker: most people throw these away without a second thought. They spend them at grocery stores. They let them slip through their fingers. They toss them in parking meters, but now you know the secret. You know to check for weight. 6.25 grams is the magic number. You know to look for doubling in Washington's profile, or striking errors that distort the design. You know that even the tiniest imperfection could be worth thousands. And you know that the rare silver strikes from 1971 are among the most valuable quarters ever to exist. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Collectors are hunting night and day. And every time a new example surfaces, the coin world holds its breath, because this isn't just a coin. It's a miracle. A reminder that history hides in plain sight. That fortune can be found in the unlikeliest of places. That a simple quarter, a 1971 Washington quarter with no mint mark, can change a life forever. So before you spend that change in your pocket, stop. Look. Weigh it. Because the very coin you're about to hand over for a pack of gum might actually be worth $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine, but instead, it became one of the most shocking $1 million discoveries in modern coin history. It was just an ordinary 1991 quarter. At least, that's what most people thought. A coin struck in Philadelphia, stamped with a tiny P mint mark. The kind of quarter you and I might toss into a parking meter without even thinking twice, but hidden among the millions that year was a mistake. A flaw so rare, so microscopic, that only the sharpest eyes could ever notice. And when one collector spotted it, the value of that simple 25-cent coin skyrocketed, turning a sliver of change into a life-changing fortune worth up to $1.30 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Dealers couldn't believe it. Collectors whispered about it like a ghost story at coin shows. How could a 1991 P Washington quarter, something so ordinary, so common, become one of the most valuable coins of its generation? The answer lies in the secrets of the U.S. Mint itself. In 1991, the Philadelphia Mint was under pressure. Billions of coins were being struck for circulation. Dies wore down. Mistakes slipped through. And in rare cases, planchets, the blank discs meant for striking, were never intended to become quarters at all. One story tells of a 1991 quarter struck on a silver planchet left over from decades earlier. Imagine that, a modern quarter carrying the DNA of a coin from America's past. A hybrid born of accident, luck, and mystery. To the average person, it looked like just another quarter. But to a trained eye, its lighter color, its sharper ring, its very weight revealed the truth. Collectors were shocked when one surfaced. The bids at auction didn't just climb, they exploded. What began as a few $100s quickly surged into the tens of thousands. And then, into the hundreds of thousands. By the time the hammer fell, this forgotten little quarter had reached values no one thought possible. And in a private sale later, the whispers became legend. Over $1 million paid for a coin most people would have spent on a cup of coffee. But this is where the story gets even more unbelievable. Not every 1991 quarter is worth a fortune. The majority are worth exactly 25 cents. And that's the heartbreaking part, because right now, millions of Americans are letting these coins slip through their hands, completely unaware of the treasure they could be holding. The difference lies in the details. And those details are often invisible unless you know exactly what to look for. A slight doubling on the lettering. A faint error in the mint mark. A subtle misalignment of Washington's profile. Or the most shocking of all, a wrong planchet error, where the quarter was struck on a piece of metal never meant for it. One man in Florida once spent weeks combing through rolls of quarters from his bank. And just when he was about to give up, he spotted it, the faintest doubling on the word liberty. To him, it was nothing. But when he showed it to a local dealer, jaws dropped. That one small detail, invisible to almost everyone else, transformed his roll hunting hobby into a six-figure payday, and yet, that was just a fraction of what others have found. Imagine emptying your pockets at the end of the day. A quarter falls to the floor and rolls under the couch. You reach for it, annoyed, only to pull it out and discover something is different. Its color isn't quite the same. Its sound rings sharp against the table. And as you lean in closer, the hairs on your arms rise, because you realize you might be holding $1 million miracle. But here's the chilling truth, most people never know. These quarters circulate for decades, passed from hand to hand, tossed in jars, forgotten in drawers. Some are scratched. Some are bent. Some are destroyed before anyone notices their secret, and yet, a handful survive. Waiting, and if you're watching this right now, one might be waiting for you. But the story doesn't stop there. In 1991, the Philadelphia Mint didn't just produce quarters. It produced an entire generation of errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, double dies. And buried in those mountains of coins were anomalies so rare that today, dealers call them phantoms. Quarters struck on nickel planchets. Quarters struck on dime planchets. Even quarters struck on foreign coin blanks left behind in the presses. Each one is a 1 in a billion accident. Each one is worth a fortune. And yet, they look so deceptively normal that the average person never sees them for what they are. But what makes the 1991 quarter legendary isn't just its errors. It's the mystery of its survival. How did it travel, unnoticed, for decades, through cash registers and coin jars? How did it end up in the hands of someone wise enough to recognize its power? That's the riddle that gives this story its mythic weight. Finding one of these is like winning the lottery, only better. Because unlike a lottery ticket, the coin was always there. Sitting quietly in your pocket. Hiding in plain sight, collectors across the country are now scouring their change with new urgency. Social media is buzzing with posts of people holding up their quarters to the light, weighing them on scales, and checking every detail with magnifying glasses. And every so often, someone makes a discovery. A new variety. A new error. Another piece of the 1991 puzzle falls into place, but here's the part that gives every collector goosebumps. The US Mint itself has never released the full records of how many misstruck 1991 quarters exist. Which means the number could be 10. Or it could be hundreds. Or maybe, just 1 or 2. That secrecy is why dealers fight tooth and nail to get them when they appear. Because every time one surfaces, the price climbs higher. First, pick up every 1991 quarter you find. Don't dismiss it. Don't spend it. Study it. Look for doubling on the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. Look at Washington's I, where the faintest doubling can hide. Weigh the coin on a scale. If it's lighter or heavier than 5.67 grams, you may have something extraordinary. And most importantly, check its color and sound. Silver planchets shine differently, ring differently, and weigh differently than their copper-nickel cousins that if you see anything unusual, get it authenticated immediately. Because once it's confirmed, you're no longer holding 25 cents, you're holding a life-changing treasure, and here's the thought that should haunt you tonight: this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer, in your piggy bank, or even jingling in your pocket right now. A coin worth not just thousands, not just hundreds of thousands, but over $1 million, the 1991 P. Washington quarter isn't just money. It's a miracle hiding in plain sight. And one day, it might just be your miracle, because the difference between pocket change and $1 million is knowing what to look for. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it went on to sell for over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A simple 2021 quarter, the kind you might have in your change jar right now, has turned out to be worth up to $1.4 million. And the reason why is more shocking than you can possibly imagine. For most people, the year 2021 was just another date on the calendar. But for coin collectors, that year produced one of the most mysterious and valuable mistakes in modern U.S. history. A quarter struck in Philadelphia, bearing the P mint mark, slipped out of the mint's presses with a flaw so rare, so unusual, that it sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. But here's the part that stunned everyone: the error was so subtle that millions of people handled this exact quarter and never noticed. Some spent it on coffee, some tossed it in vending machines, others left it forgotten in couch cushions. Yet one sharp-eyed collector realized what he was holding, and that discovery changed his life forever. A coin worth just 25 cents suddenly being valued at over $1 million. Dealers couldn't believe it. Collectors were calling each other late into the night, desperate to know how many of these coins still existed, or if this was truly a one-in-a-million strike. Most people who see this coin never recognize it. They don't see the tiny imperfections, the faint double impressions, or the strange markings that give away its incredible secret. But once you know what to look for, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. But let me take you back to the beginning. In 2021, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was running at full speed. Billions of coins were being produced, crisp, shiny, flawless quarters rolling off the presses. But amid the roar of machines, one die, just one, slipped out of alignment. The result was a coin that should never have existed. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. A man in Florida picked up his change after buying a cup of coffee. He glanced at the quarter, noticed something unusual, and set it aside. Days later, he took it to a local dealer. At first, the dealer dismissed it as a normal coin. But under magnification, the truth became clear. The details were doubled. The rim had irregular spacing. And the mint mark carried a faint distortion that didn't match any official strike. Word spread fast. This was no ordinary quarter. This was a once-in-a-generation mint error. Soon, the coin was sent to auction. Collectors lined up, bids came flying in, and by the time the hammer dropped, the quarter sold for over $1.30 million. Think about that. Someone's pocket change, a single quarter, became a life-changing miracle. There may be more of these coins out there. Hidden in plain sight. Sitting in purses, drawers, and change jars across the country. And every day, more of them are unknowingly spent, lost, or ignored. Because the difference is so tiny, only the most careful eyes can spot it. The truth is, dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Some say it's the rarest modern quarter ever discovered. Others believe it's just the beginning, that more shocking finds from 2021 are waiting to be uncovered. Let me tell you the exact details. The 2021 P mint mark quarter worth up to $1.4 million has a distinctive double die error. Look closely at the inscriptions, especially the words, "In God We Trust." On the rare $1 million variety, the letters show faint doubling, almost like a ghostly shadow hovering just above the surface. Next, check the rim. Instead of a clean, uniform edge, some of these coins show irregular spacing, almost as if the press struck slightly off-center. The mint mark, P, itself may look stretched, blurred, or slightly tilted compared to a normal strike. Under magnification, parts of George Washington's profile may appear doubled, with a subtle but unmistakable second outline. Collectors who spot these signs are holding a fortune in their hands, but here's the terrifying reality: most people never bother to check. They spend these coins, thinking they're ordinary, never realizing that they just let go of $1 million treasure. One man's coffee change became $1.3 million. Another collector pulled a similar coin from a bag of quarters straight from the bank. Dealers were shocked, scrambling to confirm the authenticity. And when the coin hit the auction block, it caused a bidding war unlike anything seen in recent years. This tiny mistake in Philadelphia has become the talk of the coin world. Some say it's the most valuable modern quarter ever struck. Others whisper that there are still undiscovered examples waiting to be found, coins that could instantly turn an ordinary person into a millionaire overnight. And here's where you come in. If you have a 2021 quarter with a P mint mark, do not ignore it. Take it out. Examine it carefully. Look at the lettering, the rim, the mint mark. Because if you find the rare double die strike, you are holding a coin worth over $1 million. Collectors dream their entire lives of making a discovery like this. For most, it never happens. But for the lucky few who take the time to look, history proves it can. So the next time you reach for spare change, don't underestimate what you're holding. Don't toss it aside. That plain-looking quarter in your pocket could be the ticket to a life you've only dreamed of, because this exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The 2012 Denver Mint Denali quarter, a piece of metal smaller than a cookie, has become one of the most shocking discoveries in the modern coin world. Ordinary people are spending it every single day, not realizing its hidden secret, a secret that could turn a single quarter into a life-changing fortune. Collectors were stunned when the first reports surfaced. A simple 2012 D quarter, part of the America the Beautiful series, honoring Alaska's Denali National Park, started selling for staggering sums. What could make a coin minted barely a decade ago suddenly soar in value? The answer lies in a hidden error, a mistake so rare that only a handful may exist in the world. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At first, dealers thought it was just hype. After all, the Denali quarter wasn't scarce. Millions were struck in Denver. They circulated freely. Kids used them for gumball machines. Adults slid them into parking meters. No one thought twice. But then, one collector noticed something odd. The image of the doll sheep perched on the cliff didn't look quite right. The strike seemed doubled, the details ghostly, almost like the mountain itself was shifting under moonlight. This was no ordinary coin. This was a minting error. And not just any error, one so dramatic, so unique, that its value skyrocketed overnight. Dealers are now rushing to get their hands on this coin. Auction houses are buzzing. The story spread like wildfire, a quarter, just a quarter, suddenly commanding 6 and even 7 figures. One specimen reportedly drew offers edging toward $1.5 million, but here's the shocking part: most people still don't know what to look for. They have these coins sitting in jars, lying forgotten in dresser drawers, or jingling in their pockets right now, completely unaware of their value. The Denali quarter was designed to capture the raw, untamed beauty of Alaska, towering peaks, rugged cliffs, and the majestic doll sheep staring out over its kingdom. It was meant to be a tribute to nature. Instead, it became a symbol of fortune. Because when a coin like this leaves the mint with the wrong strike, a doubled image, or even a subtle off-center flaw, it transforms into something beyond money. It becomes treasure, and this is where the story takes a dramatic twist. One man in Colorado claimed he found his in-pocket change after buying a cup of coffee. He thought it looked strange, so he tossed it into a desk drawer. Months later, curiosity led him to show it to a dealer. That's when the truth came out. His 25-cent coin wasn't worth a quarter at all. It was valued at over $500,000. Offers poured in. Collectors begged for it. And whispers began: could this be the start of $1 million discovery? Imagine that for a moment. You're holding a coin that could change your life forever. You think it's worth 25 cents. And in one careless moment, you drop it into a vending machine. Gone. Forever, because this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The doubling on the coin, sometimes visible around the doll sheep's horns or the mountain ridges, creates a ghost-like image. To the untrained eye, it looks like a smudge, maybe just bad wear. But under magnification, it reveals itself as a rare minting mistake, and mistakes like this are the crown jewels of coin collecting. Collectors were shocked when a single specimen crossed the auction block and fetched nearly 7 figures. Dealers whispered about private sales, numbers climbing higher, offers reaching that unbelievable $1.5 million mark. There are rumors of another version. A rare Denver strike with missing details, where parts of the design were never fully pressed into the coin. Weak strikes, partial designs, even strange cracks running across the surface. Each one is unique, each one potentially priceless, some say only a handful. Others believe dozens are still out there, waiting to be discovered. Hidden in cash registers. Buried in old coin rolls at the bank. Sitting in the back of a glove compartment, forgotten under a pile of receipts, and that's what makes the hunt so irresistible. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector claimed he found his in a $10 roll of quarters at the bank. $10 invested, and in return, a coin worth more than most people's homes. But here's where things get even more unbelievable. The U.S. Mint, when asked, downplayed the errors. They insisted quality control was strict. They suggested only a few mistakes slipped out. But history tells us otherwise. Time and time again, rare error coins have surfaced years later, long after the mint declared them impossible. And those are the coins that fetch the biggest fortunes. Collectors know this. They live for it. They chase it. And when word spread about the Denali quarter, the rush began. Suddenly, people were combing through change, searching bank rolls, even checking laundromat coin trays in hopes of finding that life-changing piece, because the truth is, it could be anywhere. Think about it. The quarter is the most common coin in circulation. Everyone uses them. They pass from hand to hand, unnoticed. Which means the rarest quarter in America could be hiding in plain sight. But here's the detail you need to know, the mark that separates a fortune from 25 cents. Look closely at the Denver D Mint mark. Check the details of the sheep's horns. Study the mountain ridges. If you see doubling, ghost-like images, or any sign of a strike error, you may be holding one of the rarest coins ever made. And remember, condition is everything. A coin fresh from circulation may be valuable, but one in pristine, uncirculated condition can skyrocket in value. That's why collectors protect these coins in cases, guard them like family heirlooms, and insure them for sums that sound more like lottery jackpots than coin values. But what happened next will make your heart race. One collector refused to sell his Denali quarter, even when offered 7 figures. He kept it, calling it his Alaska fortune. To him, it wasn't just money. It was history. A story. Proof that miracles can still happen, even in something as ordinary as a quarter. And now, the legend continues. So the next time you hold a 2012 Denver Mint Denali quarter, don't just see a coin. See possibility. See adventure. See the chance that you might be holding $1 million treasure. Check the D Mint mark. Inspect the sheep. Look for doubling, ghost-like strikes, or missing details. Protect it, and never, ever spend it. This coin almost ended up in someone's change jar, but instead, it sold for over $1 million. Yes, a simple 2016 quarter, the kind you might have in your pocket right now, has stunned the entire coin collecting world. Collectors are whispering about it, dealers are chasing it, and ordinary people are discovering that what looks like just a quarter, could be their life-changing ticket to fortune. But how could a modern coin, one struck in 2016, barely a decade old, be worth $1.60 million? The truth is hidden in a mysterious detail that most people overlook, and once you know what to search for, every single handful of pocket change will feel like a treasure hunt. Let me take you back to the year 2016. It was the 7th year of the America the Beautiful Quarters program. This particular design, the Harper's Ferry Quarter, featured John Brown's fort. The iconic building tied to the abolitionist movement, a symbol of resistance and freedom. Millions of these coins were minted at the Philadelphia Mint, stamped with a small p. To the casual eye, they're just another circulating quarter, but a handful, a tiny handful, came out different. That's where the story gets mysterious. Somewhere during production, a minting error slipped through. An error so rare, so breathtaking, that when one finally appeared at auction, collectors could not believe what they were seeing. Bids erupted. The room fell silent. And in the end, this small quarter, struck in 2016, crossed the $1 million mark. You see, errors are the heartbeat of coin collecting. Double dies, off-center strikes, planchet mistakes. These are the accidents that transform ordinary coins into legends. The Harper's Ferry Quarter is no exception. Some of them were struck with doubling so bold, you can see it without a magnifying glass. Look closely at the windows of the fort, the doors, the letters that spell Harper's Ferry. In certain error coins, they appear to echo, as though the building itself is vibrating in stone. That doubling, that faint shadow of a second strike, is what sends collectors into a frenzy. But it doesn't stop there. A few coins were struck off-center, where the design is shifted, almost as if the building itself is sliding off the coin. Others have what's called a die clash, a ghostly image pressed into the surface, where the dies slam together without a planchet in between, leaving their scars behind. And the rarest of them all, a 2016 P. Harper's Ferry Quarter struck on the wrong planchet entirely. Imagine holding a quarter that was mistakenly struck on a nickel's metal blank, or even on a foreign coin planchet. These bizarre errors are so scarce, so otherworldly, that collectors will pay unimaginable sums, and that's exactly what happened. 1 Error specimen. A 2016 P. Harper's Ferry Quarter with extraordinary doubling and pristine condition, shocked the world when it brought in a hammer price approaching $1.60 million. A quarter, 25 cents, transformed into a fortune. But what happened next stunned everyone. Word spread. Collectors began scouring their pocket change. Coin dealers reported floods of people rushing in with rolls of quarters, desperate to check for hidden errors, and in some cases, those everyday dreamers really did find them. Stories emerged of families paying off debts, funding college, even buying homes, all because of a single lucky quarter plucked from circulation. And here's the part that makes this story even more thrilling. Most of these valuable Harper's Ferry quarters don't look special at first glance. That they're not gleaming gold. They're not encrusted with jewels. That they're ordinary gray quarters, often scratched, often circulated, but under the right light, when you tilt them just so, the secret reveals itself. Collectors describe the first moment of recognition as electric. Your heart races. Your palms sweat, because in that instant, you realize, you might be holding a coin worth more than $1 million. Start with the mint mark. The rarest and most valuable Harper's Ferry quarters carry the P for Philadelphia, right on the obverse side, near Washington's portrait. Next, study the design carefully. Examine the windows and lettering on John Brown's fort. If you see doubling, a shadow effect, a second outline around the details, you may be holding a double die variety. Check for off-center strikes, where the design seems shifted or cut off by the rim. Look for extra thickness in the lettering, and most importantly, weigh the coin. A standard quarter weighs 5.67 grams. If your 2016 P. Harper's Ferry quarter weighs noticeably more or less, it could mean it was struck on the wrong planchet, and that's the jackpot. But here's the twist that keeps collectors awake at night. Most people don't even bother to look. These $1 million treasures slip through hands every day, hiding in vending machines, cash registers, and coin rolls at the bank. And for those who do look, for those who take the time to study every coin carefully, the rewards can be life-changing. Think about it. A single moment of curiosity. A single glance at a coin most people ignore. That's all it takes to change a life forever. The 2016 P. Harper's Ferry quarter proves that hidden fortune still exists in plain sight. It proves that history, mistakes, and chance can collide to create miracles worth millions, and it proves that the next great discovery could belong to you. So tonight, when you empty your pocket, don't just toss those quarters into a jar. Look closely, study the mint mark, search for those hidden shadows and rare mistakes, because this exact quarter, the 2016 P. Harper's Ferry, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.